today's video, I'm going to be taking a pragmatic, practical look at the so-called BroScience approach to figuring out the best ways to stay in shape with diet and exercise. But before we do that, let's check out the RDP Advent Calendar's tip of the day. So today's tip is a very simple way to get your hips closer to your ankles, which carries over to a bunch of different exercises, particularly lunges and squats. Now, this is a simple stretching exercise I recommend doing on a daily basis, but the devil is in the details. It's just bringing your hips back and down, kind of like child's pose variation that you see in yoga, but I'm not driving back with my arms. Instead, I'm squeezing with my hip flexors, pushing my hips down and back towards my feet. You can do this with the knees wider apart to kind of give your adductors a little bit of a stretch. You can do it fairly close together, but doing this on a regular basis, daily, and focusing on pulling the hips back with your hip flexors can make a big difference in the quality of all of your lower body movements, your core training, and of course in the mobility of your hips as well. So today we're talking about the validity and high value of so-called BroScience. Now, the opposite side of BroScience is of course evidence-based, things that have scientific merit and research behind it, and for good reason. Because if there's a general idea or plan out there that has more scientific merit behind it, peer-reviewed research, interpretation, meta-analysis of repeatable results over several studies, then yeah, there's a lot more value to an idea or a method that has a lot more evidence-based backing to it. On the other side, BroScience is stuff that just kind of seems to make sense. And it's like, well, yeah, that sounds about right, even though it may not have a whole lot of merit to it. So on the surface, it makes sense that BroScience probably doesn't have a lot of value to it just because we're doing things because it seems to make sense. But there's a lot more value to that it seems to make sense than we often realize. One of the biggest disadvantages to evidence-based is that it's very slow and it's very, very costly to do. And as a result, the ability to learn and go in new directions with evidence-based research can take a lot of time and energy. It's like a large ship. It takes a while for it to turn around. Now, BroScience, on the other hand, is fast. It's super quick. You can have an idea tonight, apply it tomorrow, and get results next week. And at the same time, it may be something that is not necessarily infallible, but it's easier to correct and write. You could try something next week and be like, yeah, that doesn't really work very well. And you are on to the next idea that you have. So both of these have their shortcomings and both of them have their merits. So they form like a yin and yang kind of approach to it. And I really do believe that it's detrimental to focus on either of them at the exclusion of the other. The Red Delta Project is not an evidence-based approach to health and fitness. It is a principle-based approach to health and fitness. Your body is governed by the natural principles of Mother Nature. Things like homeostasis, for example. Those are the things that are ultimately in charge of your condition and wanting to make any sort of changes in your body. Now, the thing with principles, though, is they're in charge, but they're notoriously difficult when it comes to practical application. Think of like calorie balance, for example. We know that it's the calorie balance and the energy balance and how the body processes and utilizes energy that's responsible for our size and how well we function and stuff. But being able to apply that in a practical way is ridiculously complicated and wildly still not understood. So we can look at saying calorie balance all day long, but that doesn't really help anybody very much because how do we get that into practical daily habits that produce a result? Well, that's where the evidence-based stuff comes in. The evidence-based research says, here's what we found tends to work best over time. Here's what the meta-analysis says. Here's what the peer-reviewed research says. So these type of habits are probably a better way to go about satisfying those principles in a practical way. But even that has its major shortcomings because, like I said, it's slow, it's expensive, and it's not personal too. It's not something that can adjust and change with the times very quickly. That's where the BroScience comes in. BroScience is fast, it's personal, it's practical, application at its finest. Because no matter what you know on the evidence base, and no matter how well you understand principles, at the end of the day, a lot of your ability to get in shape is going to come from creativity and just making stuff up, of just being able to move and think on the fly. So you're not going to be able to have research-based decisions on everything that you do. Some people are like, I just feel better skipping breakfast. Like, I just don't like having breakfast. Well, what's the scientific merit behind that? I don't know. It just feels right. It's bro science. But if you're trying to go off just what the scientific literature is, you're never going to be able to figure that out for yourself unless the literature starts to come in alignment with that very habit. But this is where all three come into alignment, is use the principles as a compass needle of that's where I've got to head. Use the scientific evidence-based research of what are the general guidelines that seem to work best, and then use the bro science to be flexible, make changes, be creative, and find the things that work best for your resources, your preferences, and the application for you in your present situation. So what are your thoughts on this whole thing? Am I just blowing steam? Am I trying to validate my own crazy ideas? Or do I have something more to it that I'm missing? Leave me down below in the comments section. I'd love to hear from you. And also leave your questions for future videos as well. Till then, be fit, live free.